It's November 29th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the heaviest November snow on record. The rare November snowstorm that blanketed the capital city with 40 centimeters of snow resulted in the deaths of 6 people. Around 3 to 5 more centimeters of snow is in the forecast nationwide this afternoon. U.S. President Joe Biden says he hopes President-elect Donald Trump rethinks his tariff plan for Canada and Mexico, warning that Trump's tariff threats are counterproductive. K-pop girl group NewJeans held an abrupt press conference on Thursday and said they will terminate their contract with their agency ADOR over a dispute related to the firing of the group's executive producer and former ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin. Min has been accused of attempting to take control of ADOR. The historic snowfall in the Greater Seoul area in the past 2 days resulted in 6 deaths and a number of injuries. It's also resulted in a great deal of facility damage. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Wednesday and Thursday saw the most November snowfall seen in the Greater Seoul area in over 100 years. The heavy snowfall also resulted in the deaths of 6 people. The fatalities include a person who died late Wednesday at a golf range in Pyeongtaek, Gyeonggi-do Province after a net covered in heavy snow collapsed. Also in Gyeonggi-do, a man was killed when a protective tent at an auto parts factory collapsed due to the sheer weight of the piled up snow, while a man in his 60s out clearing snow was killed when the immense weight of accumulated snow brought a tree down on him. 2 people were killed in traffic accidents, while a civil servant died from cardiac arrest after clearing snow. Combined with the wet snow that fell, the tremendous weight and pressure on roofs and structures caused a great deal of damage. Experts say 50 centimeters of wet snow piled up on a 100 square meter area would weigh 5 tons. This led to many older facilities and roofs to collapse, with several injuries reported over the past 2 days. Such was the case in Anyang, Gyeonggi-do Province, where the roof of an agricultural and marine products wholesale market collapsed on Thursday. A woman in her 60s was injured due to the incident. The unprecedented snow has also impacted travel throughout the country. Dozens of flights were canceled during the 2-day period, with many more delayed. Many commuters also found themselves without access to public transportation in some parts of Seoul as buses struggled to access snow-covered roads. Extra caution is advised on Friday with sub-zero temperatures causing icy roads. Also, with snow forecast for Friday afternoon, the country is preparing to minimize damage seen during the past 2 days. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On Thursday, President Yoon Suk-yeol hosted his Latvian counterpart to discuss bilateral ties amid Korea broadening its diplomatic horizon. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the details.
South Korea and Latvia are looking to strengthen general bilateral ties. This as President Yoon Suk-yeol hosted Latvia's President Yoon and Rinkēvičs on Thursday, as South Korea became the Latvian head of state's first Asian nation to visit since his inauguration, with a working visit to Seoul. According to the presidential office, the 2 leaders spoke on collaborating on various fronts, including the biosector, trade and investment, and national defense. As for the bio industry, President Yoon expressed his desire for Korean healthcare companies to work with Latvia's pharmaceutical companies, as the European nation is known for its manufacturing capacity in the sector. President Rinkēvičs responded that he hoped Latvia could be the bridge to the European market for South Korean pharmaceutical companies. In terms of the arms industry, the 2 agreed that South Korea could be a good partner for Latvia as it looks to strengthen its national defense capacities, as South Korea is a reliable security partner. And as 2 like-minded nations, the leaders raised concerns over the rise in fake news and cyber threats using AI and pledged to work together against this. Meanwhile, the 2 leaders also deplored North Korea's deployment of troops for Russia, causing security concerns for Europe, saying they will work together in sending strong unified messages against the military cooperation. The Latvian president showed support for Seoul in condemning North Korea's recent provocations, and the 2 agreed to respond together against them. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday expressed hopes that President-elect Donald Trump would reconsider his plans to impose tariffs on Mexico and Canada, stressing it would ruin relations with the neighboring countries. Speaking to reporters, Biden called Trump's proposed tariff plans counterproductive, saying that the last thing the U.S. needs is to screw up relations with its two allies. The comments come as Trump announced that he would implement 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. According to data from the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, Mexico and Canada are the second and third highest suppliers of goods to the U.S., while China, which would also be impacted by Trump's proposed plan, imports the most to the U.S. A Ukrainian special delegation visited South Korea this week, and this time with a request to purchase South Korea-made weapons. Why buy when it's been asking for to provide K-weapons? So let's turn to Professor Kim Dong-soo this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So why is Ukraine now looking to buy Korean weapons? Is it because it believes South Korea won't provide weapons?
Ukraine is actively seeking sources for advanced military equipment to strengthen its defense capability. And South Korea is well known for its advanced military technology. So I would say yes to the question. But South Korea has maintained a cautious stance on directly providing lethal aid to Ukraine. Also, Ukraine is in a state of desperate need of more weapons. Its current arms supplies from Western allies might not fully meet its needs.
Well, that's why South Korea reportedly said no to the request, but why not sell eventually?
South Korea's decision to decline Ukraine's request for lethal weapons is likely influenced by several strategic, political, and economic considerations. First of all, South Korea has significant economic interest in maintaining stable relations with Russia, especially in energy imports. Second, there may be concerns about domestic opposition to becoming directly involved in the war. South Korea's stance reflects a careful balancing act between supporting Ukraine as part of global community opposing aggression and avoiding direct involvement in a conflict that could harm its strategic and economic interest.
So maybe those are the factors or reasons as to why South Korea said no to, selling the weapons. I also hear we are short on weapons anyway, including, Cheonggung, K9, and K2. Is that the case?
I don't believe we are significantly short of those weapon systems, but there are several factors that influence our willingness or capacity to export them, especially in the context of Ukraine. Those systems like Cheonggung, K9, K2 are essential to our defense strategy. Any reduction in their inventory could potentially weaken our ability to respond quickly to North Korean aggression. So South Korea has also made a commitment to export those systems to other countries, including Poland, India, Egypt, and others. So meeting these export obligations while keeping enough for its domestic needs makes it difficult to provide them to Ukraine.
Well, Professor Kim, then is it safe to say that South Korea may be waiting for U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to return to the office to deal with the Ukraine crisis? Because Trump has been very keen to end the conflict as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's true. I think South Korea's stance has been more cautious stance since the presidential election of the United States. But South Korea's decision on the Ukraine war are shaped more by its regional and global strategic considerations than by expectations of future Trump presidency. While Trump's return could influence global dynamics, South Korea appears to be making its decision based on its own geopolitical considerations.
Well, what's worrisome is that Russia is reportedly gearing up for a huge comeback on Ukraine, which, after Ukraine used US and UK-made missiles against Moscow. From South Korea, what kind of support do you think Seoul can provide, if not weapons, and what?
If South Korea continues to refrain from providing lethal weapons to Ukraine, it can still offer significant support in non-lethal and indirect ways to aid Ukraine in countering an escalated Russian offensive. These contributions can align with South Korea's policy of balancing global responsibilities and regional interests while avoiding direct military involvement. South Korea may provide humanitarian aid, economic support, and defensive and dual-use equipment, etc.
Then, dramatically speaking, Professor Kim, are you saying that it'll be impossible for Ukraine to get its hands on Korean weapons?
I think that the possibility is open, but I would say that South Korea will be making a cautious stance in the near future.
Alrighty, Professor Kim, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
North Korea has sent more trash-carrying balloons over the border, resuming the balloon campaign after a 10-day hiatus. As far as the Joint Chief of Staff said, Pyongyang floated around 40 balloons starting Thursday evening to Friday dawn, and around 30 of them were identified around the Seoul metropolitan area and surrounding Gyeonggi-do province. Now, the contents include anti-South Korea leaflets, and military said there were no harmful substances. This is the 32nd time the regime floated balloons this year and the first time since November 18th. This also comes after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong on Tuesday issued a statement criticizing anti-regime propaganda leaflets flown into the north. In a sudden press conference on Thursday night, K-pop girl group NewJeans announced they will leave their agency ADOR. But ADOR said the contract remains valid. Our Kim Bo-kyung has the details. K-pop girl group NewJeans announced on Thursday that they will end their contract with their agency ADOR, a subsidiary of HYBE, and start their own journey. During the emergency press conference, the five-member group said neither HYBE nor ADOR have shown any willingness to improve the situation they are in.
ADOR lacks both the will and the ability to protect NewJeans. It's a waste of time to stay, and it also causes mental pain.
While saying they will no longer be ADOR artists with the exclusive contract terminated, the members said they will freely pursue activities they truly desire, while promising to do a pre-scheduled and contracted activities as planned, including advertisements. Regarding any legal measures, NewJeans clarified they won't be filing for an injunction to suspend the validity of the exclusive contract, as ADOR and HYBE are the ones that violated the terms, and they would not have any obstacle in continuing their activities. The group's contract termination follows the company's dispute with its former CEO, Min. After months of tensions over HYBE's allegations that Min had attempted to take control of the label and NewJeans, the agency removed her as ADOR's CEO in August. On November 13th, NewJeans had sent an official list of changes the group wants to be made by their agency ADOR within 14 days of receiving the paper document, which was November 14th. Their demands included the reinstatement of Min as CEO and a formal apology from the manager of another rookie group under HYBE subsidiary Islet over alleged workplace harassment against member Hani. But none of the corrective actions they demanded were properly made, said the members.
We have less than 4 hours left of the time we agreed upon. If there was any intention to rectify the situation, it could have been clearly shown through actions long before now.
After the announcement, ADOR issued a statement expressing regret over the group's decision, even before it gave a response to group's demand letter and without sufficient consideration.
While stressing it has not violated any terms, ADOR claimed that the contract with NewJeans remains valid. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Malaysia's top trade official has welcomed the resumption of free trade talks with South Korea, while highlighting the importance of supporting small and medium-sized businesses in the region. Our correspondent Lee sat down with him.
On Monday, South Korea and Malaysia established a strategic partnership pledging to strengthen cooperation in various areas including the economy, defense, and green energy. Malaysia's Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry was present when President Yoon and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim announced the agreement. We talked to the minister about the economic aspects of the partnership.
The next year we'll celebrate 65 years of diplomatic relationships, and therefore trade and investment is an integral part of that relationship. We are glad that both parties have agreed to resume the Malaysia-Korea FTA. Unfortunately, we had challenges, and in 2019 it was stopped, right? And yeah, like you said, last year in March we resumed it, and during the meeting between the two leaders on Monday, they both agreed that we must conclude this.
So you mentioned there are also, there's roadblocks as there is to any FTA talks. What are some concerns that need to be addressed before we finalize the agreement?
Both countries will have industries who are concerned about competition that may not be seen fair. And I think we have explained to the relevant industries that actually it is not a zero-sum game. We can agree between the two parties. We open up more tariff lines or reduce tariff because at the end of the day, we feel that it's going to be a win-win.
And when asked about regional economic challenges presented by the incoming Trump administration in the U.S., he said this.
You're right. Again, people are watching closely when the U.S. now under Donald Trump. So what do we do in ASEAN? One is that's why we're going to focus more on intra-trade within ASEAN as well. ASEAN as an economic bloc is the 5th largest economic bloc. Our population is around 680 million. But trade within ASEAN is only 20 to 23%. So this, in this case, you need to include SMEs.
I think what you said about intra-trade is very important. Yes. And you also mentioned the role of SMEs. Why is the role of SMEs, like Korean SMEs, and as well as I'm guessing Malaysian SMEs, why is that so important?
SMEs is important because even in the region like ASEAN and of course Korea, 90% of companies that are registered are SMEs. And if they are not felt, then even politically it's going to be difficult to support multilateral agreements or even bilateral agreements.
And under the theme of inclusivity and sustainability, he said next year's ASEAN summit hosted by Malaysia is expected to boost SME involvement and strengthen supply chain resilience across all Southeast Asia's economies. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Now let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Xiang. Good morning, Xiang.
Good morning, Dami.
Why don't we begin in Australia, where a strict social media law for minors has been approved. What's that about?
Yeah, that's right, Dami. The Australian Senate on Thursday passed a bill banning social media for children under 16 years of age, following approval from the House of Representatives the day before. Now, Australia's new social media law targets platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and Snapchat, which will be liable for fines of up to $33 million if they fail to prevent children from holding accounts. Among the world's strictest laws regarding social media, the bill passed the Senate by 34 votes to 19 on Thursday. While it is not the first attempt by a country to restrict social media exposure for children, the law sets the highest age limit yet, with no exemptions for existing users or children with parental consent. While critics question how exactly the ban will work and its impact on the social connectivity of Australian children, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said previously that he wants peace of mind for parents and for young Australians to have a childhood. The ban will not take effect for about a year, giving the social media platform time to figure out how to implement the policy to avoid the penalties. Indonesian emergency services are on full alert as they continue searching for survivors after the death toll from flash floods and landslides in North Sumatra province reached at least 27 on Thursday. Indonesian authorities said the number of casualties may rise as tourist locations have also been hit. The country's National Disaster Agency said Thursday that torrential rain since last week destroyed houses and farms in mountainous regions, many of which remain covered in mud and fallen trees. Authorities also said some vehicles remain trapped on roads around the region's largest city of Medan, where bodies from a tourist bus were recovered earlier. Local elections were also affected, with floods closing some polling stations in the city. The Colombian Navy announced Wednesday the capture of 6 narcotics smuggling submarines as part of a successful international anti-drug operation. According to a Colombian Navy's Vice Admiral, the 6-week International Orion naval campaign, involving 10 international organizations and 62 countries, sees a total of 1,408 metric tons of narcotics, including 225 tons of cocaine and over 1,000 tons of marijuana, from various locations, including cultivation areas between Brazil and Paraguay. Now, more than 400 people were reportedly arrested across several countries as part of the operation. Thursday marks one of the US's biggest holidays of the year, Thanksgiving, with celebrations not just at homes, but on the streets with annual parades. Thousands of New Yorkers came out for the annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, despite wet weather, to watch marching bands, performances by pop artists, and giant balloons of America's favorite characters. Chicago held its 90th annual Thanksgiving Day Parade, also on Thursday, with spectators cheering diverse cultural acts, including Korean traditional music and dance performances.
Extreme weather continues on this last day of the work week, with freezing temperatures in most of central parts of Korea. Snow removal work seems to be nicely done out there, but still, stay safe. Now, the reason behind the massive snowfall was linked to the temperature difference between the West Sea and cold air from the north. The water temperature was a couple of degrees higher this year, causing the cold air to pick up more moisture from the sea, dumping the heaviest November snow in the capital area. It is still snowing in parts of Jeollado provinces, and more snow clouds will be formed from the afternoon. So east of Jeollabuk-do could see up to 7 centimeters. The capital could see 1 to 3 centimeters of mix of rain and snow in the afternoon. And strong wind is making conditions tougher. Jeju will face typhoon force winds today. Then highs will go up to 5 degrees here in the capital, Gwangju topping out at 10 degrees Celsius. Now, finally getting some relief from the dramatic weather this weekend for central areas, but Jeju and Jeollado provinces could see more wintry weather conditions. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Now that wraps up our Friday edition of New Day at Arirang. Thanks for watching.